Hello, happy Friday, everyone. We are excited to get started here with our monthly webinar. Our monthly webinar is the last Friday of every month, so it's August 28th today, and we are very excited to deliver today warehouse management with SAP Business One. Our webinar today will be recorded, and we are also going to streamline on our Facebook page. So hello everybody on our Facebook page, and then hello everybody on the East Coast and on the West Coast. This is basically today's session will focus on warehouse management in SAP Business One, and I'm thrilled to have here together with me our WMS expert, Emmanuel. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi, Oren. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And today's session is really complementary to another session we had a few months ago about inventory best practices. So those two sessions will cover everything you need to know about warehousing and inventory and things of that nature. And we are going to cover, we're going to demo with a 10.0 for SQL, but it's going to cover all flavors of SAP Business One clients, whether you use HANA or SQL, or 9.3 or 9.2. Today's session is going to be relevant for everybody. So let's get started with what we're going to cover today. So our objective is to just get you familiar with the warehouse functionality of SAP Business One. Everything we're going to show today is going to be out-of-the-box features, though we're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes to introduce you to different add-ons and when you should use an add-on at all, and what are simple add-ons that are easy to implement, what are the more robust add-ons that provide more functionality. But the majority of the call today will be around the features out of the box within SAP Business One. So with that being said, let's go through the agenda. So we're going to talk today about warehouse setup and different types of warehouses available with SAP Business One and when to use one versus the other. We're going to look at item master data and how what visibility we have to warehouses within the item master data. Then we're going to get granular about the bin management enablement within the warehouse setup. And we're going to talk about pick and pack and the production manager and how do you use it for sales order, how do you use it for production management. Then we're going to review some add-ons options and when it makes sense to use an add-on and when not. We're going to look at different reporting available for warehouse management and additional documentation we have gathered for you. So without further ado, we're going to get started with the warehouse setup.
Thanks, Doran. For the warehouse setup, we will begin by reviewing all of the relevant information in the warehouse setup window. This includes things like your tax code, location, a dropship, etc. So let's move over to SAP and we'll start reviewing some of the information that we have.
Excellent.
Perfect. So let's start with some of the warehouse we had previously already created in SAP Business One. So as we look through some of the warehouses that we have here, we can see that we have many different types of warehouses. So as I scroll through, we can set up a local warehouse or a general warehouse, but maybe we can set up a consignment warehouse. So that'll store our consignment purchases. At the same time, we can also have other types of warehouses, such as a dropship warehouse, which is can be used as a virtual location for products that go directly to our customers from our vendors. So let us start with a warehouse we previously created here called the Amazon warehouse. Okay, so as we looked at this setup window, just as with standard SAP functionality, we have the ability to activate or inactivate our warehouse. As long as there's no inventory in that warehouse, we can do that. We also have the option of adding a tax code per warehouse, and that tax code will appear on your AP documents when you select that warehouse. Going down the list, we also have the ability to add a location to the warehouse as well. And this location field also appears on many inventory reports and is used to consolidate your warehouse selections by that location. At the same time, we have as well some address fields here on the warehouse. So this lets SAP know where we want our product to be shipped to. So this will be the address on the ship to field on your purchase orders. Going down the list, we have GLN. GLN stands for Global Location Number, which represents an address or a business partner used to identify physical locations or legal entities. Otherwise, it's pretty much just informational. In addition, we have some additional address fields here at the bottom. If you wanted to add a tax office or some additional address fields, you have that ability to do that as well. If your warehouse was a dropship warehouse, you can enable that with this checkbox here on this screen. Something very cool with dropship warehouses is that through standard SAP functionality, you're able to create a purchase order directly from a sales order. And when you do this, and when you have a dropship enabled, SAP actually copies your customer ship to address and puts it on the purchasing ship to address fields, which really helps automate part of that process. Going down the list here, the nettable checkbox indicates that the warehouse will be involved with standard MRP SAP functionality. If you deselect this nettable checkbox, for example, the warehouse will not be available when you run your standard MRP wizard in the future. Moving along here, the allow use tax. Use tax is a scenario when you as a company purchase items with no tax, but you need to pay taxes to your state. So if you need to do that, this is part of the configuration to do that. Moving along here, there is 3 different ways to default a warehouse in SAP. You can do it on a company level. From a hierarchy perspective, this is the least priority. So you have the ability to set that here on the general settings module. In the items tab, you can set a default warehouse on a company level. At the same time, you might want to default a warehouse directly to an employee. So for example, if you have a user and that user is using a specific warehouse, you can actually default a warehouse directly to a user. So here we're logged in as manager, and on the defaults tab, you do have the ability here to also set a default warehouse. So that'll take the higher priority if you do have a warehouse defaulted on a company level. The third way and the highest priority when choosing a warehouse is actually directly on an item level. So in the item master, you do have the ability to set a default directly to the item in the inventory tab. So if you click on the inventory tab, we can see here we have multiple warehouses, and we see here that warehouse 06 is bold. So this indicates that this warehouse has been set to be the default for this item. So you can do that by selecting this button here. The one thing also to note that's very important is on the general settings, you do have the option to enable auto add all warehouses to new and existing items. When this checkbox is enabled, when you add a new warehouse, it's going to automatically add to your existing items in your item master. So for example, if I were to add an 07 warehouse, it'll be added to all existing items in your item master. So if you don't want that to be done, you can deselect this. At the same time, if this is checked off and you were to create a new item, you can see here all of my warehouses are automatically assigned to new items as you're creating them. So if you don't want that functionality, you can deselect this, and that'll give you a little bit more control in your SAP environment. So with that being said, we've covered the main areas of the warehouse setup. So let's move along to the item master. Oren?
Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. This is great. So as we look at the item master data, and by the way, if anyone have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat as we go along, and we're going to open the lines and at the end of the session as well for other questions. But as we look at the item master data, I think the main tab we're really going to focus on is the inventory data that is related to kind of warehousing. One of the things you may want to look at is set inventory method by. That will basically, if you don't use the GL account determination, will allow you to set your GL accounts, your revenue accounts, your cost of goods sold account per warehouse. So the warehouse will have another tab with accounting that you can set different accounting rules for different warehouses. In our scenario, we have advanced GL accounts determination, so we have more robust structure here. Other thing that we may look at is the manage inventory by. In this case, there is also in the general settings, a default for that. In this case, it's managed by warehouse, but I can uncheck it per item. And what that means that I can set up minimum, maximum, and required levels by item, but I can also do that by item, by warehouse, by checking that. So once checking that, I have the minimum, maximum, and required inventory in the lines of the warehouse. So let's look at those. What is minimum inventory? We can set up minimum inventory per item per warehouse, and what that will do is first will enable you to set up alerts, so different users can get alerts based on that minimum inventory. So it's gonna look something like that. As somebody create transaction and it takes you below minimum inventory, it shows you the item, the warehouse, what was the minimum, what's actually in stock, and what was the transaction that led you below that minimum. In addition, minimum inventory will support MRP, so MRP results will take that into consideration when recommending you to make purchase orders. The maximum inventory is basically another informational field, but also as you try to receive inventory above that maximum inventory, the system will throw an alert to the user. The user can approve it and move forward, but it will let you know you exceed the maximum quantity for that item for that warehouse. And then the required quantity is basically as you are going to create a new PO, it will recommend the quantity between what is available to the required quantity. So if I start a new PO for that item, I will see that by default the quantity will be basically the difference. So if I will choose that item that I have, I can change the quantity, but by default, and of course, if I change to warehouse number 1, so that will give me that quantity. Any questions? Feel free to write them in the chat. But let's move forward into some counting. So SAP provides you the ability to do counts, and inventory counting could be a totally separated webinar. But if we look at inventory counting, we really have 2 ways to kind of handle that, or even 3. But the one way to handle that is inventory counting transactions. So one way to do that is do inventory counting. That will allow you to select different items by group or by import from Excel, and provide a sheet to your counters to count the inventory. You can enter the quantities here or import them. You can do single count or multiple counts and things of that nature. And as soon as you are ready to post it into your GL and into your inventory, you can copy that inventory counting into inventory posting. That will create journal entry and create those adjustments in inventory, show you the variance and so forth and so forth. So that's the inventory counting and inventory posting. You will use those transactions when you do periodic counting, like once a year, once a quarter, and things of that nature. But in addition to that, you have the option to do cycle counts. So cycle counts is defined per item per warehouse, and it resides within the item master data. So you could from here assign cycle counts. So you could say that's quarterly count and decide what will be the reoccurrence and things of that nature. So I could do that every so often and decide when it's going to be the start date and when it's going to be reoccurring and things of that nature. So we could really assign different counts to different types of items, depends on their importance. So, high value items will probably going to be counted more than other items, and you could also set up an alert so the specific users that needs to count get an alert. Hey, those are the items you need to count today based on that reoccurrence that have been defined. We can also batch mass update all items with relevant reoccurrence of the cycle counts based, using DTW. So that's on the counts. And the last thing I want to do before we go into more granular about bin locations within the warehouse is the right-click option. So from the item master data, you have a lot of right-click treasures. So I'm going to just update that item so I see those options. So the first thing I would look at is the inventory posting list. The inventory posting list will show you everything ever posted to this item, and you have a lot of options here. It also provides you the ability to drill down into the invoice or drill down into the receiving document. Will show you the pricing, what's the quantity was done, and so forth and so forth. You can also, if it's batch or serialized managed, you can also split it by that. So what that will give you, not just the transaction, but basically each serial numbers or batch number. And you can also split it by bin location for the bin locations warehouse managed. The other thing you could do here, by default, it provides me the past year kind of date, but I can go as far as I want backwards. So if I want to see all the transactions from the beginning of 19, so I do that, and the system provide me that info. Of course, like everywhere in SAP Business One, there is the form setting. So if you want to see additional details and make them visible, you can go here and kind of check or uncheck the relevant fields. The other thing worth looking at is the inventory audit report. And by the way, both of those reports are available under the inventory reports to run for a group of items, to run for all items, and things of that nature. But what the audit report allow you to do is understand how your quantity reflect in your GL. So I know I have 1553 kind of cumulative quantity, and I can see the breakdown in each warehouse, but I can also see what's the value from an accounting perspective. And furthermore, if we really want to, understand or explore, why a value of an item may have been, different from what is expected, you could fully expand it so you can see a detailed view of every transaction. What was the quantity of that opening balances or that receiving document PD? And you can always drill down into that document to see what was that document that, for example, a good receipt PO kind of give me more information about that item. And I can, of course, always drill down into the journal entry. I can see what was the cost that it was received, what was the value. So 10 units of 400 provide us the 4,000, and it provides me the cumulative balance at every given time, including what specific inventory GL account it hits. So that's really an amazing report that provide you that granularity to understand how that item reflect in the GL account, and also for audit purposes. And the last report I'm going to look at is maybe something that Emmanuel going to talk shortly, but that's the bin location content list. So if we look at the bin location warehouse, in this case, we set up number 06, we can see that the detailed transactions at each warehouse and how much we hold at each warehouse. And from here, we can do all kinds of transactions and transfers like we're going to see in a few minutes. So with that being said, I think it's a good segue to Emmanuel to kind of drill down into the bin location structure.
Awesome. Thank you, Oren. So as we review the bin management, let's drill into the warehouse to see that. So through the item master, I can access the bin management tab directly through here. So as I talked about earlier on the warehouse setup window, we have multiple different options to select on this warehouse. We also have the ability to enable bin locations on the warehouse level. So once you select this checkbox, you're going to have a new tab appear on your warehouse. And this is where the setup is going to be for your bin for your bin locations. So when we look at the bin locations, let's look at the bin structure. So bin location code separator. How do you want to see your data? Would you like to see your sublevels separated by a hyphen, such as how I have it here, or some other symbol? So you have the ability to control how you want to view your information. So here we have a hyphen, and that's why on the right-hand side we have our different sublevels separated by that symbol. But you have the flexibility to choose a different symbol. Continuing on the bin location tab, we also have some informational data here, such as how many bin locations we have set up. I've selected the yellow gold arrow here. So on my right-hand side, we can see that we do have 4 bin locations here set up already. Continuing on, we do have the ability to default a bin location to our warehouse as well. So here we have a bin location defaulted. You do have the ability to enforce that default here as well with this checkbox. If you have this checkbox enabled, SAP will force you to use that. But if it's not enabled, this will be a recommended default on your transaction, but it won't be something that you'll be locked into. So you can have the ability to change that. Continuing on, auto allocate on issue, auto allocate on receipt. So what does that mean? So when inventory comes in to your warehouse, that inventory needs to go to a certain location, into a certain bin location. So allocating means that you're choosing the inventory, and you're selecting where you want that to go. So with your default bin location, SAP can auto allocate for you. So here we have the ability to choose how we want that allocation to be. So do we want that on a single choice? A single choice is where there's really just one option available to fulfill that. You know, there's just one bin location available. So SAP will just take the first option here. However, your inventory could be in multiple locations. So you can also choose bin location code order. And what that is SAP is just going to choose by alphanumeric order where to choose that product. So for example, if we have inventory in both of these locations, based on the alphanumeric order, SAP is going to select the first bin location to use to automatically allocate. Also with continuing on here, if you don't want to use the alphanumeric order on the bin location, you have the ability to choose an alternative sort code order. So if I go into my actual bin master, that alternative sort code order is located right here. So essentially what this is it's a manual sequence number. So you can tell SAP to choose one bin location versus the other using this alternative sort code. So you have that ability to manually update that as well. You have additional options here, so you can choose by descending or ascending quantity. You can also choose FIFO or LIFO method as well to automatically allocate your inventory. Same with here, so you can auto allocate on receipt using these options here. You can also have the ability to receive up to max quantity and receive up to max weight. This won't be a hard stop, but you will get an error message when you receive more than what your bin is capable of receiving. Moving along here, enable receiving bin locations. So in SAP, you do have the ability to enable receiving bin locations. On the bin location master data, you can set a bin as a receiving bin, and SAP would automatically allocate inventory to that bin when you receive inventory. If you have multiple receiving locations, you can indicate that if you would like to receive by location order here as well. So if I go to my bin location master data here and I scroll to the right, we do have one receiving bin location already selected. So this will take priority when I'm receiving inventory, and it'll go to this bin location and not the defaulted bin location that we had previously set up here. As well, you can also choose how you want to receive those items by. So it can be by bin location order or by that alternative sequence number if you want to choose a manual option. You also have the ability to restrict receipts to empty bin locations and receive up to max quantity or max weight or both if you wanted to see that. Moving along here to the bin location master data, you have some informational fields here as well, so you can see the item weight. So you can see the weight of your inventory in that bin location, also the number of items that you have in that bin location. So here I just have one item, and you also see the number of quantity that exists in that bin location here. You also have the option of adding min quantity and your max quantities per bin location on your bin location master data as well. And a very cool feature here is that if your inventory goes below your minimum quantity, for example, you can actually automatically replenish your bin locations up to the max quantity. So if I so as I said earlier, this is a receiving bin, so this is where my product goes to first. But if I scroll to my right, here, for example, I might have a main storage bin location. So here I have minimum quantity of 5 and a maximum quantity of 15. And I currently have an item quantity of 7. So through these max quantities, you can actually automatically replenish if you feel like you don't have enough stock in that inventory. To do that, all you have to do is go to your bin location content list. Here, you can select your product. On this report, you can also see that your minimum quantity is 5 and your max quantity is 15, but you have 7. So by going to the inventory transfer tab here, you can automatically transfer and replenish inventory to that bin location. So replenishing bin locations brings inventory into that bin location. Clear inventory does a transfer out of that bin location. So let's go ahead and click on that to replenish. An inventory transfer transaction comes up, and you can see here everything gets populated. So the quantity of A is the difference between what my max quantity is and what I currently have in stock. So my current quantity in stock is 7. My max quantity is 15. So that's the difference there. On the from and to bin locations, the to bin location is automatically selected by SAP through through that selection. So we can see here that that's already allocated to the right bin. And on the from bin location, we can see that it's taking the inventory based on the bin location settings that I had set up earlier. So in this case, it's grabbing that bin location from my bin location code order. So I don't have to actually make any changes here. If I wanted to replenish, all I would do is just click add, and that really automates a lot of that process for you. Moving along here, you also have some bin location restrictions. So if I go back to the bin location here, you can actually restrict inbound transactions to this bin location by, for example, specific items. Here I have selected one item. So this might be just a one-to-one relationship between item and bin. So I don't want any other items in this bin location. I can select that restriction here. You can have some other restrictions here as well, such as unit of measure. So this might be a bin location just for liquids or boxes. So you have that ability to put those restrictions there as well as batch restrictions. So you can restrict it by same batch. Moving back to my receiving bin, something very, very cool here as well is that on this bin location, for example, you can add transaction restrictions to your bin location. So for example, since I marked this bin as a receiving bin, maybe I want to add quality control process here. So I have the option of blocking outbound sales from this bin location until the product has been reviewed and approved by quality control. So that's a very cool piece of this functionality on the bin location master data. Moving along here, manage bin locations. So you can navigate to the manage bin locations just through this button here. And so next, we will look at how we can manage those bin locations. So here you have the ability to make mass changes to your existing bin location. So for example, you can select a range of bin locations, and SAP can automatically generate those for you, or you can do mass updates as well. So if you have changes to your warehouse or expanding your warehouse, and you need to let's say add a new aisle, you can use this to automatically do that. You can also have the ability to use a DTW if you wanted to add more bin locations into your SAP environment as well. The other thing here is you can also modify your bin location codes as well. So for example, if you are doing some renovations into your warehouse and you need to completely rename a certain aisle or other sub-level, you can create a range here, and SAP would automatically change those bin locations for you as long as there's no inventory there. So moving along here, so let's say you needed to start from scratch and you didn't have any bin locations here yet. So the first thing you would need to do is you would need to activate the bin location fields. So if you would go to the setup inventory and your bin locations, you would need to activate your bin location codes here. So for example, I currently have 3 sublevels activated: aisle, shelf, and one called level. So that's why they're appearing here. So here's your aisle, shelf, and your level here. But you have the ability to add up to 4 sublevels if you'd like to choose that. bin location attributes. As you activate bin location attributes, they appear right here on the bin location master data. So here, for example, I have two enabled: temperature and color. So for example, if you wanted to add that attribute, you can add an attribute and assign this bin location as maybe as a hot area. Here, you can also categorize your bin locations by a certain color. So you have that ability here as well. Moving along here on the bin location attributes, if you wanted to add new temperature codes, you can do that here, as well as your colors. If you want to add more colors, you can do that there. Moving along to the sub-level codes. So in SAP, so here on my aisle, we can see that our sub-level starts with A1. If you wanted to expand that and add more aisles to your bin locations, you can do that there. So we can see that aisle starts with A, but shelf starts with S. So you can go ahead and create those codes here using this module. However, if you wanted help creating mass bin location codes, you can do that here. So for example, if you wanted to, you can create a range here and assign a different alphanumeric value for your aisle. So you can do this here, and you can generate mass amounts of codes or create mass updates using the sub-level code management here. Or at the same time, you can delete some old, delete those sub-levels if you would like. So with that being said, those are the main areas that are relevant for bin management. So now let's move on and talk about pick and pack. Oren?
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Emmanuel. Let me close. As you can know, we can do Windows close all or close all by that. So that will leave only one window open, right? But I'm going to close that. And what we want to see now is the pick and pack and how that could help us with warehouse management. So the pick and pack is going to reside under the inventory area. And they renamed it, I think, in version 9.2 to be called Pick and Pack and Production Manager, because this window really allows you to manage everything that the warehouse people needs to pick. Either it's going to be for production orders, or if it's going to be for sales orders, or reserve the invoice, you book the invoice but haven't shipped it, and even transfers between different warehouses. So one of the nice things that you have here is the ability to save multiple search criteria. So maybe there is, your dispatcher responsible for the sales orders, but maybe the production manager responsible for the production orders. So different people may have different views. So you could see that I have already pre-made some items here. So if I do open sales order, I have only the sales order with the appropriate warehouse that was selected, and any other selection criteria. If I do want to add a new one, for example, for transfers for warehouse 5, for example, I can go to add, and I can select my warehouse, select which transactions I want to see, for example, inventory transfers, and I can select my warehouse, and there are all kinds of other filters options that I could have there. So I can select everything that is going to warehouse number 5 from all warehouses, and now I can call it transfers to warehouse 05, right? And I do save. So from that point on, I have that transfer to warehouse 5, so I don't need to reorganize my selection criteria. So let's look at maybe 2 processes here on the production and on the sales side that are most common within our clients. So open sales orders will provide me basically all the sales order, and in this case, I selected only the general warehouse that I want to see, all the sales order related with that and associated with the warehouse. I have a lot of selection criteria. So for example, I can look at only orders that the due date to be shipped is today. Or I can look at any fulfillment that I can actually fulfill by 100%. I can fulfill the whole order. I can select a specific item or group of item. I can even select UDFs that I may have in the document if it's something customized. So let's look at that. Of course, I want to see all the opens, but you have other things as well, and you have the sort. How do you want to see that sort? By document number, by delivery date, by customer code, and things of that nature. I'm gonna look at it by document number at this point, and I can also have grouping by document or not do any grouping. From that point, I do OK, and that will open my pick and pack manager, which I have 3 statuses. The open ones, the one that I haven't released to the floor, I haven't released to the warehouse. The released ones, the one that are right now at the warehouse and the pickers are actually picking. And the pick ones, after the picker was picking those items, now those are ready to be shipped out of the warehouse. So if we look at the open, I can select everything. I can select none. I can select one document. I can select from here to there using the shift or the control if I want to make multiple selections. I could, of course, sort if I want to see the last document first. So I'm going to uncheck everything, and maybe I will take that 1178. It's a very old order here, so I probably need to go into the document and make sure it's, the cancellation date is the future or to later. So doing that here. And then I could, mark the lines of the document or everything and release to pick list. And release to pick list give me multiple options. So I'm going to go next because I could just go next, and create that pick list. But I can also have different selection. Do I want to guide the picker to pick only by documents? So don't consolidate multiple sales orders. I really want to do that order by order. Or maybe I want to do that by customer. Or maybe I want to do that by item group or by warehouse. So kind of to make the picker more efficient and things of that nature. So in this case, I'm gonna just hit next, and this will create basically one pick list to JSON Butler. I can change the user, I can change the picker, I can have remarks on the pick list and things of that nature, and I can generate. And that basically generates a pick list that could, by the way, automatically can be printed in the warehouse. And then I will see that in the release queue, I can see that I actually have a pick document that is associated with that order. That pick document, like I said, can be printed in the warehouse. So if you are not using an add-on that will help with handheld devices for the warehouse pickers, that will be how you're going to use it. And in a few minutes, we're also going to talk about a few add-ons that you could help you automate that process. So that basically the pick list and that design could be customized for your needs with whatever information you may want to see here. And from here, I can see the remarks that I give the picker, and the picker, once they pick it, can mark it as pick all. Or if they have handheld device, they can do that on their handheld device and click update. And that will move that from the released into the pick, because now I pick them and they're ready to be shipped. So those are the 3 different statuses. And now if I refresh the released, I see nothing in the released area. And now if I'm ready to pick, I can, or to ship them, I can mark those orders, or if I have many of them, I can do them all in one go, because I can go here and create automatic delivery that will not open the document in front of me to make any adjustment, that will just pick all those quantities. Or I can do manual delivery in the same way I can do invoice or transfers. In this case, I'm going to do just manual delivery. It's foreign customers, so I'll have to enter the exchange rate, and I'm authorizing that transaction. and I'm adding that delivery into the system. In this case, I have some serial numbers, so I'm going to auto select my serial number to allow that delivery to go out. Any questions? I don't see any questions so far. But one other thing too, as we look at the pick and pack manager, there is a lot of information available here, like, you know, what is available to release, allow you to control your fulfillment percentage, document types, and things of that nature. But like everywhere within SAP Business One, you have a lot of other treasures in the form settings that allow you to customize the information you're seeing on the screen, maybe the ship to description, maybe you want a due date to be, you know, upfront at the beginning, and so forth and so forth. Just really quick, maybe if we go into another type of view, looking at basically production, that really allow you to control your production, mainly if you do manual issues. So you can issue the component for production using the pick and pack, so pickers can go into the warehouse and pick the raw materials that is needed for those production orders. So if I click OK, I will see those production order. I can again select everything, release to pick list, and go through a very similar process that we went through with the sales orders. Any questions so far? Okay, excellent. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about some add-ons that are relevant within the warehouse. When you, if that process works for you, you don't really need an add-on. When an add-on is needed is really when you want to have your pickers, your maybe receiving guy, not using necessarily SAP Business One like we see here, but using the system, you know, using handheld devices. And there are multiple add-ons available with Business One that allow you that functionality with handheld devices. And, you know, it really depends on what exactly you need to be able to recommend what add-on will be in use. Sometimes it depends on your specific process. Sometimes it will be depends on, you know, what devices you want to use. Do you want to use, you know, smart device like iPhone or Android, or do you want to use maybe more traditional devices for warehouse operation? So let's take a look at a few of the add-ons that we have kind of gathered for you. And those are basically our partners. We have experience with all of them. And I have grouped that into two sections. One is simple add-ons and the others are more robust add-ons. The simple add-ons means SAP out of the box is the perfect fit for you, and you just need to enable pickers and receiving guys with handheld device to be able to receive, being able to move things through the warehouse, and being able to do the picking using the handheld device. So if that's the only need, those are the simple add-ons, and we have a selection of 3 for you. The Prodomex Scan from Boyum IT is a great solution. RF Gen is also a great solution that also allow you to manage production and maybe add a little bit customization into that structure. And the rig group. In the rig group, for example, they have a nice additional feature that allow you to provide the list to driver, allow drivers to do the delivery by themselves, take a picture and take a signature from the client and things of that nature. So again, different add-ons for different types of clients and needs. And we also have the robust add-ons. So Prodomex WMS from Boyum, Resolve WMS. Actually for HANA, you could also consider that as a simple add-on, and also Lisa WMS. I'm thrilled to have here in the session Emmanuel. Emmanuel actually have you know, familiarity and have deployed maybe 5 of those 6 different add-ons, and myself as well have experience with many of those add-ons. So we'll be happy to advise you what could be a really good fit for your specific needs. And with that being said, I think the next, you know, and Maybe one more point before we go into reporting is about robust add-ons. Robust add-ons really allow you more granularity about the warehouse. If you want the smart devices to tell your picker where to go first, to do smart selections, to do automatic allocations between long-term and short-term, to provide you recommendations and things of that nature, provide reporting, good performance of pickers and things of that nature. Those robust add-ons have all those features out of the box. Of course, robust add-ons will probably take more time to implement and will be a little bit more costly, but they have much more functionality. Simple add-ons will be more straightforward in terms of implementation and their cost, but so again, it depends what you really need within your warehouse. So with that being said, I hope it's helpful. And with that being said, we can go into some reporting in SAP Business One related to warehousing.
Awesome. So yes, let's look at some of the warehouse reports in SAP Business One. Here's a list of some of the main reports that we have in SAP Business One. So let's start with the inventory in warehouse report. This report, warehouse reports are located right here. So if I move this to the side, inventory in warehouse reports. So this report lists the current inventories by warehouse based on documents related to purchasing, selling, and production. So you can select a range of items or leave blank if you wanted to select all. Here you have that location here, so you can consolidate your warehouses by location. So if you wanted to view only your warehouses in Los Angeles, you can automatically select those there. And you have some additional fields here. So if you wanted to view this report by a certain price list, you have the ability to do that. So if I click OK here, we can see by warehouse. So here, for example, here's warehouse 01. We have the information of how much we have in stock, what's been committed so far, and what's unordered and what's unavailable. At the same time, we have some additional information here, when the last receipt date was, and we have our item price and our total. So that price is coming from the selection that we made on this field here. So we have our item price and the total. So we have that information there. If I scroll down, we can see other warehouses here as well. So here's your warehouse 2, and it lists it in that order.
Excellent. And Emmanuel, we finally have the first question here in the chat. So James is asking, when picking, does this allow for batch picking? That's the first question. And the answer is yes. Both SAP out of the box as well as any of the add-on presented allow you to pick and choose the specific batch. Actually, it will pop up when you try to pick an item with batch. And the second question, would the picker be able to pick into multiple bins on one cart? And the answer is also yes. Sorry, go ahead, Emmanuel.
Awesome. No, awesome. That's okay. So let's move along here to our next warehouse report, inventory posting list, which is right here. Oren touched base on this earlier, but this report shows your inventory transactions by item. So you can see this report by item, document, warehouses as well. So here's your selection criteria. You can run this report by specific items or by resource, as well as a business partner. Here again, you have your location if you wanted to consolidate or choose specific items. And you have the ability to enter in a date range here to filter your data. So if I click OK, this is going to run all of my items. And just like Oren mentioned earlier, he showed this report on the item master for one specific item. This is being run for multiple items. So here you can see your transaction a type as well as your number and your inbound and outbound quantity with with your ending balance here as well. So it's a very, very useful report.
Excellent, Emmanuel. And one more question came in the chat. Does it allow barcode on those bins so picker could scan into the bin when using handheld devices? Absolutely, absolutely. That's the whole idea, to scan the item, to be able to scan even the bin location, to be able to scan the specific batch. Absolutely. But one more word about this report, so you can appreciate it. This is really your Bible as related to inventory. Like you have the general ledger report on the finance side, that is the Bible on the finance side. This is your Bible on the inventory or warehousing side. And the main thing is that expanded selection criteria. That will allow you to see only specific transaction. If you want to see only your deliveries or only the good receipts and, or only the APs, or, between any route stage, if it's related to production and things of that nature. So make sure you take a look at that expanded area, because that one report is really worth like hundreds or thousands of reports in one kind of reports. Maybe, Emmanuel, maybe let's go quickly through the last report you wanted to show, because we're running out of time here.
Yep. Okay, so last report here, inventory accounting transaction report, right here. So as Oren mentioned earlier, we have the ability to provide end users sheets to do counting, as well as the ability to post those variances if there's any discrepancies between what we've counted and what's actually there. We can run this report by user or by specific count date as well. So we have multiple options there. And so I just did one transaction, a week ago. So here, for example, in this example, we have one user that counted 5 units, and we see that there's a discrepancy of 1. So this report kind of gives you a high-level overview of the counting transactions that took place for that day or that date range.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Emmanuel. The last report we showed on the item is the inventory audit report. Allow you to run it for specific items or all of them, and that's gonna cover that. So I wanted to be able to provide you some additional information, but we have one more question in the chat. Jennifer is asking, does pick and pack have to be connected to bin numbers? No. You could run the pick and pack on a regular warehouse. You can run it on a bin managed warehouse. So it's available for all types of warehouses, apart from, of course, dropship warehouses that does not hold any inventory. I wanted to go through, before I go through the documentation, I wanted just to do a quick recap of what we have gone through today. So we went through a warehouse setup, and we saw different types of warehouses. We went through the item master data, and we saw the cycle counts, the different right-click options, and minimum, maximum requires, and all that stuff under the item setup. We looked at the bin managed warehouse and the different options within that warehouse. We looked at the pick and pack and production manager. And we looked at different add-ons that could be a good supplemental to what SAP out of the box provide. And we looked at some of the reports available for you out of the box. So let's look at some of the documentation. Of course, there is a great materials online in the SAP help portal. There is help portal for any version, and I put here the link for the 10.0 version. We do have our YouTube channel, so we have our supplemental webinar recorded on inventory best practices that worth looking at with this link. And we have many other training sessions available on our YouTube channel using that link. We have also tips and tricks, SAP Business One tips and tricks group. So I invite all of you to join that group. And we gather all the information related to the specific add-ons that we discuss on those links. So we're going to share that presentation in about a week from now in a follow-up email that we will send to all people that have registered this webinar. And of course, you are welcome to review any of our blogs that provide you additional information about SAP in different areas. And Google is a great tool sometimes to find additional information that you may need. But of course, feel free to reach out to us, either to myself or Emmanuel if you have any questions, or if you want to drill down into additional setup. So with that being said, we are looking for any questions or feedback of today's session. And again, here is our emails and contact information, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any question on that area and on any other area. Since this is the monthly webinar, I invite you to join us in next month webinar that is going to cover different configuration on the cockpit, dashboarding, UI configuration, and all kinds of administration tools. So I invite you to join us at the end of September. And of course, all the time, feel free to suggest that any topics that you may want to hear on. So any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or add them in the chat. Since I see no questions, I would like to thank everybody, wish everybody happy Friday and a great weekend. Keep being safe and healthy, and thank you for joining today's session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emmanuel, for a great, for being the co-host today and for a great delivery.
Yeah, thank you, Oren. Yeah, it was great.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.